Our guest tonight is an award-winning entrepreneur whose bold and creative ideas have helped birth one of the country's most sought-after sneakers. As a self-proclaimed sneakerhead, he's on a mission to build a world-class African sneaker brand, which speaks to the African narrative. Now, since launching his brand more than 5 years ago, the Bathu, and I'm only laughing because it took me a while with the pronunciation and my blare was coming at me. Anyway, has become synonymous with the South African streetwear culture and lifestyle. And straight from the success of his Bathu and Somizi collection, he joins us to talk about his entrepreneurial journey and realizing his dream. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for the invite.
Welcome, and I see he's wearing the Pear Festival. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, that collab with Somizi is big. I mean, that is big business. And I'm sure, you know, with your entrepreneurial journey, you often think about that moment, the humble beginnings.
Yeah.
Maybe even that moment when you were trying to get Somizi into this deal and waiting for him after the show at Metro.
Yeah.
I mean, take us to that moment and where you are now when you compare the two.
Yeah, I mean, when we started in 2015, you know, we had a vision to build a shoe brand that Africans can proudly affiliate with. And influencer marketing was the thing at the time. You know? So I really wanted someone who can advocate for my brand, you know, and someone who can really resonate with people.
Sure.
So I went on, you know, like I used to sell perfume sekasi door to door. So hustling people is my thing.
Sure.
Waited, you know, at Metro FM for Somizi and really presented my vision, and he bought into it.
Wait,
Sure.
this was from it just happened now. So you guys started in 2015, camping outside.
Yeah, no,
You're
yeah.
a persistent guy.
No, so when we started the business in 2015, I hustled, and that's where the relationship began, you know, with Somizi, you know. Then only the collaboration, you know, we launched it now.
And he was already like a fan of the brand.
100%,
right?
yeah.
And I'm sure that also kind of made it easier to say,
Yeah.
this is where we're going.
Yeah, so to tell you what, we've been talking with Somizi about this collab for about 2 years. You know, back and forth. I mean, obviously, he was busy with his things. I was busy growing the business,
Sure.
you know, corporatizing, you know, opening stores and so forth. So the timing couldn't have been better, you know, in 2021 to go forth and to really see a day of light with this collab. Yeah.
So when you think of a celebrity and you want to go and approach somebody, what is it that makes you think this is the type of celebrity who aligns with my brand, and when can I sign on?
When you look at Somizi, you know, I think he speaks to everyone. You know, he resonates and connects with a lot of people. So for me, you know, I think he was the best person to advocate for my brand because of, you know, his influence, you know, and his connection with people. You know, our brand is about people. So I think I wanted someone who can really advocate for that.
Okay.
And I think that when you look at this table, I should be wearing Bathu every day. So I'm expecting a delivery of all the sneakers that I'm going to wear for the rest of the year.
100%.
Right. You said you heard it. So your business has grown exponentially over the past 5 years,
Yeah.
and you've grown in leaps and bounds. I just want to know what has been the biggest lesson throughout this journey.
I think for me, it was about the intention. Look, man, I quit a tax-free salary in Dubai to come back home, you know, to build a shoe brand that Africans can proudly affiliate with, you know, to reignite hope and create sustainable jobs. And for me, my intentions were pure. I was not fired. So I think number one was that you really need to have, you know, the right intentions and have the patience for it, because, you know, I did about 18 months of research and development. And I believe that patience is loyalty to the universe, you know, so you really need to be patient in, you know, your approach, in your mechanics in business, because it just doesn't work out like that.
So did you have a situation where you left work first or you started working on this brand? And how did you get the basics of being an entrepreneur right? Because many people fail and stumble, but how did you perfect that craft?
I think for me, it was a blessing in disguise. You know, being an accountant, working for a great firm, you know, locally and abroad for about 5 years really helped me a lot in terms of understanding the mechanics and the economics of business and building a value chain, because I was exposed to different types of clients in different industries. So that played a role, the education that I had and the corporate experience that I had. But you really need to be intentional and really, you know, have that edge to learn and to build with the right intentions.
Definitely.
I see your brand is amongst a few brands that are out there in terms of the shoe brands that come through in South Africa. But there's something that is very special about your brand. It's just how people just gravitated towards it.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have to do billboards. What is it about your brand that just draws people in?
Yeah.
And speak to people like that?
I think, you know, talking about speaking to people, you know, if you look at Bathu,
Yeah.
you know, South Africa is known to be a very diversified country. different ways of speaking, different ways of eating, different ways of dressing. But whether you go to Soweto, Alex, Tembisa, Guguletu, Bathu is known to be a shoe.
Durban.
Or Durban. Bathu. So people have been looking for that shoe brand that can really hit home and resonate with, And I think that's one thing that, South Africans, had to fall in love with our brand, because it's not just a shoe, but it's a shoe that, tells a story. It's a shoe that helps people walk their journey, embrace that diversity, embrace where we come from as a country.
I mean, one of the biggest things is understanding your consumer.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think at this point in your journey, you've done that well. So what is it that you had to understand about the South African market, and actually know how to, relate to them and even distinguish yourself from every other player out there?
And one thing that I know about South African consumers is that they're very supportive. Whether you are an international brand or you are a business that's got an international, service offering, there is a lot of support. But it's about how you connect with your client and what story are you telling. And now, people are woke. They really need to understand, if I'm parting ways with 1,000 rand, how does it help contribute to my community? How does it help contribute, to our GDP as a country? So it's not only about being, a consumer, but about how are we creating impact, for our economy. So that's one thing that I think I did a great study on.
And the shoe's got to be dope. I mean,
sure, of course, 100%, yeah.
Okay, so you've obviously built like an e-commerce situation or business.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of complement the two or marry the two between in-store and online to make this an e-commerce empire?
I'll be quite honest, at first I didn't get it right. However, when COVID hit, I had to press the reset button on my business model. Because
how did you not get it right?
Because I think the first 2 years of my business, even though I didn't have brick and mortar stores, I did online sales. I did not really invest in e-commerce. I just had a website that was selling. Then when the stores closed, when we went to lockdown, I was like, geez, I need to sell. So it was a blessing in disguise. So I pressed pause a bit and went back and reinvested in my e-commerce. Now we're integrating our e-commerce business with brick and mortar, like introducing things like click and collect, being able to integrate to buy in store and exchange online, or buy online and exchange in store. That integration. And that only happened when we went on to lockdown, because I had to stop a bit and think about my business model.
Let's talk about these challenges of producing quality shoes while also being trendy, keeping up with what the vibe is, what's in vogue, etc., especially in this South African market.
Yeah, and I love that point, because late last year I was invited by the Black Business Council, and those are the kind of issues that I addressed with them, about, the manufacturing, in South Africa, manufacturing sector, especially around textile, we really tried hard with our mesh edition to keep everything else local, for the longest of time. But with, keeping up with trends, sneaker technology and kind of equipments, the craftsmanship in South Africa and the textile industry in South Africa, it's almost dead, because we're really struggling to keep up with the trends, So that's one thing that we really need help with our government. And I think the problem with that more is that even the policy from the government makes it difficult for South African factories to keep up with the trends.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We will chat on the side about it later.